Well, welcome in. This is the early wedge, and this is the halfway point for the RBC Heritage. I'm Rick Gehman, that right there, Jason Sobel. And Jason, we've got 2 rounds in the books. We've got an interesting little leaderboard brewing, and there will not be a cut made tonight because this is a signature event.
It's the weekend. We all made it to the weekend, including all of the players at the RBC Heritage. What's going on, Rick? I'm looking forward to this weekend, and we've got a big-time leader in Justin Thomas. I knew it was nearly 3 years since his last win. 59 starts. I mean, man, that's a long time without a Justin Thomas victory.
Feels like a long time. Yeah, there's actually a lot of guys on the top of this board that either have never won or it's been multiple years since their last victory. We'll get to some of those names, but let's just start right there. Let's start with Justin Thomas. He was the main storyline on Thursday. He went out and shot a 61 that tied the course record. I think he probably left a stroke or two out there. And then it was much more difficult conditions in his afternoon tee time here on Friday. It was a 69. He's going to enter the weekend with a 2-shot lead, but Jason, he really needed to grind through this second round. He needed to kind of keep the wheels on because there were a couple of moments where it looked like things were getting away from him a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard this one before, Rick, but apparently it's really hard to follow up a very low round on the PGA Tour. We've seen it time and time again. By the way, first round leaders, not only have we not seen a wire-to-wire winner on the PGA Tour, first round leaders or co-leaders are 0 for 16 in trying to convert so far this season. We almost saw Justin Rose do it last week at Augusta, but no one's done it yet. Justin Thomas trying to be the first player to do it this season, and I'm very interested in how he's going to play over these final 36 holes, thinking about that he hasn't won in 3 years. I remember speaking with him. This is just a little example of how much winning means to JT. This is the PNC Championship at the end of 22, after, of course, he won the PGA Championship that year. And I asked him to assess his year and sort of rate it based on his own personal expectations. And JT said to me, "Oh, man, I left a bunch out there. I should have won here, should have done better here, really disappointed in my year." And I stopped him in the middle and I said, "Dude, you understand you won a major this year, right?" He goes, "Yeah, I know. And Tiger always tells me if you win a major, that year's a success, but I just didn't feel like it was a success." So if he thinks of 22 winning a major as an unsuccessful year, well, 23 didn't make the FedEx Cup playoffs. Last year was better, but still didn't win. This year, it's gotten even a little bit better. He's got a few top 5 finishes, but he's got to be thinking about that next win. And it's so hard for these guys. We heard Rory McIlroy talk about it all last week. The fact that, yes, he's there to win. He's trying to win. That's all he cares about. And yet you've got to take it shot by shot.
It is interesting because you're right. He has gotten much better since the 2023, kind of the bottom. 2024 was better. And this year, the metrics are really good, Jason. The thing that I find so interesting about these 2 rounds is they were both vintage Justin Thomas. You know, what he did on Thursday was spectacular. It reminded me a lot of that second round at TPC Sawgrass earlier this year. He could go out and shoot something very, very low. And then the Friday round, you know, he still has some putts that are really ugly. Missed like a 5-footer 2 feet to the right. He's very wayward with the driver still, puts himself into a lot of trouble. So it's this Jekyll and Hyde situation that we have with JT. And I genuinely have no idea what he's going to do over the final 2 rounds.
No, he's got a lot of chasers too. You cannot sit on a lead here and say, okay, well, let me just go out and shoot a couple under par and be fine. You've got Siwoo Kim and Russell Henley tied for second, 2 shots behind him. And then Scottie Scheffler lurking just 4 shots back. And I know we're going to get into some of the numbers, but Scottie Scheffler was 4-1 coming into this golf tournament this week. And then 36 holes in, 4 shots back, and he's still at the same number. That seems like a lot of value to me, Rick. If you told me that, would you rather have him pre-tournament at 4-1 or halfway through just 4 shots back at 4-1? I know I'd certainly like the latter. And Scottie Scheffler, interesting, by the way, I know the video's going viral of him on 8. He pulled an iron shot, and then as he's walking towards the green, he handed it to Ted Scott a few feet in front of him. And before Ted could grab the club, he took it back and slammed it into the ground. You can see the frustration. We've seen some frustrations from Scottie Scheffler so far this year. Well, I listened to his interview that he did with SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio with Bill Rosinski afterwards, and he doesn't sound nearly as frustrated with his game as you would think. All that said, so some very good chasers right now, and JT's got to continue stepping on the gas pedal.
Well, let's just go right there because those guys are the two favorites, right? We've got Justin Thomas sitting here at 2-1 to win the RBC Heritage. We've got Scottie Scheffler, who is 4 shots back at 4-1. Those are the two shortest odds to win this event. Scottie opened up with a 64 on Thursday. That was one of the better approach rounds we've ever seen in his career. And then again, similar to JT, the Friday round was not nearly as good. It was a 70 where he made 9 straight pars to end this round. How much of this, Jason, is just the fact that basically each of the first 2 days, this golf course was played 2 shots more difficult in the afternoon. Both of these guys were in the more difficult conditions on Friday. The greens were getting pretty firm. They were getting pretty fast. This isn't much to be concerned about, is it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so whatsoever. The first 2 rounds are just about positioning. Just be up there somewhere and give yourself a chance with 36 holes left to play. By the way, I've got to give a shout out to you. Never count your money when you're still sitting at the table, Rick, but we were on HQ on Wednesday night and you gave up Justin Thomas as your favorite play. I won't tell the folks out there who your favorite fade was for the week, but you had JT as your favorite play. So good on you for that one. And it's looking good so far, but for JT to continue playing well. Look, spoke with Carl Paulson, who's not there this week, but he's doing PGA Tour live coverage. Spoke with him just a little bit ago on the post-game show on Sirius XM, and he told me this course is firming up, and this course is going to get maybe a little bit tougher. And look, you mentioned the afternoon rounds playing harder. If you're among the leaders, you're going to be playing in the afternoon the next 2 days. They don't let you play in the morning if you're leading this golf tournament. And so I would think that we could see a little bit more leaderboard movement. Moving day should be very interesting tomorrow.
Yeah, heavy exposure for me to Justin Thomas, and I will tell you on the comfort scale, I'm about a 2 out of 10. I do not feel very good about it. I like the lead at the halfway point, but boy, am I terrified. The round of the day was Siwoo Kim. Followed up his Thursday 68 with a 64 and went nuts out of the gate here. He was 8 under through his first 12 holes and then maybe checked a scoreboard and realized what was going on. He played his final 6 at 1 over. Still cards that 64, flies up the leaderboard, Jason. He is now in a tie for second, 2 shots back of Justin Thomas, and he is rather dangerous at times.
So 2 things really interesting to me. After the round, he spoke with Todd Lewis on Golf Channel and said he actually played kind of conservative. He said he was scared about his driver today. He didn't really like the way he was hitting it off the tee. And so to shoot 64, play conservative golf is really interesting. I think a lot of us tend to look at the best players in the world and say, well, if they go really low, that must have been an aggressive round where they're taking aggressive lines off the tee and aiming at flag sticks and making birdies. No, he actually said he played conservatively. So that part to me is interesting. The other thing is that I thought Siwoo Kim was due for a breakout year. And I don't mean that in a way that, he's won before. Look, he won the Players Championship at the age of 21. So, this is a guy who's been there, done that. That said, President's Cup last year, spoke with him on Wednesday before it started. And he talked about how, he didn't know how he was going to play in front of these massive crowds and a lot of people watching. He said, I'm kind of shy. I don't really like a lot of that, fanfare. And then we saw him with the histrionics. Maybe the night a little too soon during that match. Yeah. That said, I felt like he broke out of his shell a little bit. And I thought that was going to be a springboard. Usually at the Ryder Cup, President's Cup each year, there's one player and you kind of watch him and you go, even if it's not a player that goes 5-0 or, even wins a whole bunch of matches, you're kind of like, okay, this is going to propel him to bigger and better things. And I thought Siwoo might sort of, move up a few notches in status on the PGA Tour. And right now it hasn't happened for him so far this year. We're playing some great golf so far this week.
Yeah, 10-1 to win this thing outright. He sits in a tie for second with Russell Henley, who has already won this year, Jason. He was a victor at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, a signature event earlier this year. He's shot rounds of 64 and 68. The stat profile is pretty vintage Russell Henley. He's gaining on approach. He's gaining around the green. He's gaining with the putter. Are we getting a newfound confidence now out of Russell Henley, who is honestly, for the last year or 18 months, has been playing the best golf of his life?
He has. And look, I have likened Russell Henley over the last few years until the API victory as a guy whose performance has outweighed his results. And Rick, I know you probably got stats to back this up. I will liken him to a Major League Baseball pitcher who's got an 8-13 record and a 2.83 ERA. And you go, did he have a good year? You're like, no, his record wasn't great, but his ERA was top 10 in the league. Well, yeah, his performance was really good, but the record wasn't really good. He hadn't really gotten the results until the API. Look, the chip on 16 at Bay Hill, the 70th hole of the tournament, if it's 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right, it's flying past the hole. Colin Morikawa wins by 3. Instead, hits the stick, goes dead center, goes in for eagle, and he wins by 1. I still, though, I am not completely confident in Russell Henley. He's a guy that looks like there's confidence there first, second round. He gets into the heat of the battle on the weekend, and he talked about it after the API that he was nervous over 3-4 footers on the last 2 holes to clean up his pars on those holes. I don't know if I have full confidence, Rick, in especially putting my money on a guy that looks nervous over 3 footers when a tournament's on the line.
Yeah, and told us how nervous he was is the other thing, which is pretty funny. Well, listen, he's got wins on the PGA Tour. I've got guys coming up that at least one of them who is in the mix does not. There are a few who do not, but we are going to continue this conversation. We'll look towards the odds board for the weekend, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
And we're back. I want to talk about at least one of the guys here at T-Force. We've covered the guys at the top. That's Justin Thomas at 12 under, Siwoo Kim and Russell Henley at 10 under. I want to go to Tommy Fleetwood here at 9 under. 67, 66 here, Jason. Well-rounded as usual. If he continues to stay in the mix, there will be countless observations and references to the fact that he has not yet won on the PGA Tour. This is certainly one that would be a big one if he was able to close it out.
Tommy hasn't won on the PGA Tour yet. Are you sure?
I'll double check, but I'm quite sure. I think I hear it every single week. Yes.
So much has been made about Colin Morikawa going to the mallet putter this week, and Tommy Fleetwood has done the same thing. My buddy Brendan DeYoung, former PGA Tour player, who's now a very good analyst, tweeted earlier this afternoon that could be the key to unlocking that first career PGA Tour victory for Tommy. We know how good he is tee to green. If he gets that putter going a little bit, yes, he can absolutely stay in there with these players and find himself in the winner's circle come Sunday evening. But I like it, Rick. When guys switch putters, it's sort of like dating a girl for like the first month. You're like, wow, everything's really exciting. Everything's really interesting. I'm really into this. I'm really happy. And I like guys, the caddy changes too. And JT has a new caddy on the bag, Joe Griner, Max Homa's former caddy for just the second week. And he's obviously in the lead right now. These little changes, like when a guy's going through full swing changes, okay, let's stay away for a little bit. When a guy is changing his ball and he's going to a new ball, okay, maybe long-term, Rory McIlroy did that this year. Long-term, that can have a good effect, but short-term, I don't necessarily love it. Caddy change, putter change, I'm all in. I usually think those tend to be positive results in the short term.
7 times a winner on the European Tour, 0 times a winner on the PGA Tour. That's Tommy Fleetwood. You mentioned Colin Morikawa. We can lump those two together. He might be, for my money, Jason, the guy farthest back that still has a chance of winning this. I'd like your thoughts on that. He's 7 under par, rounds of 69, 66. That 5 under 66 that he shot today, Friday, was bogey free. You mentioned the new putter. Well, it's working. He's picked up 2.5 strokes to the field on the putting surfaces. He's currently ranked 14th for this week at RBC Heritage. So things are looking very positive for Colin as he kind of lurks heading into the weekend.
Look, he was my pre-tournament pick to win. And yeah, I got some of him. I didn't love the 11-1 number, 16-1 right now. I'm probably going to buy back in, honestly, because I do think that Colin Morikawa still has a good chance. He's putting well. What bothers me is the iron play. And I never thought I would be worried about Colin Morikawa's iron play, but on a second shot golf course where you can essentially iron your way to success, he is dead even, field average through 2 rounds. That's got to improve. You can't, I don't know that Colin Morikawa has ever just relied on his putter to work his way up the leaderboard. But if we get these things in concert, if he starts striking the ball the way we know he can and then continues putting with his mallet putter, yeah, I really like his chances going into the weekend. Although I will disagree, Rick. I do think that players that are further behind still have a decent chance.
Okay,
I would say that he's 5 shots back. I mean, I'd go as far back as the guys at 5 under right now, which includes Xander Schauffele and Victor Hovland and Jordan Spieth, Denny McCarthy, who I like coming in. You like Daniel Berger.
Yeah.
I don't think those guys are out of it by any means, especially if they're going to have a tee time. I'm not looking at the tee time, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours before the leaders, and might get a little bit better conditions out at Harbour Town over the next 2 days. Like, I think those guys can post a 63, 64 out there, climb up the leaderboard, and still have a pretty good chance.
Well, those guys are interesting then, because Xander Schauffele's 55-1, Denny McCarthy's 170-1, Daniel Berger's 150-1, Jordan Spieth also in the 500s, he's 120-1. So the way that the odds board is tiered for live outrights is there are like 3 or 4 separate tiers, and it drops off pretty significantly after Patrick Cantlay, who's 40-1. So if you do think the 5s are live, those numbers are very, very good. Now, the favorites we talked about, Jason, we talked about those two. Those are Justin Thomas and Scottie Scheffler at 2-1 and 4-1. Russell Henley is 6-1. I too kind of looked at that Colin Morikawa number, 16-1. I kind of think, okay, well, he hasn't really hit it great, but he's probably one of the best in the world. Coming into the season, I would have lumped him into the Justin Thomas category of like probably going to win at some point this year. Mm-hmm. I think that number's a touch too long for him at this golf course.
Yeah. Look, Colin Morikawa is going to win at some point. He's playing too well. What's funny is that, those of us who do this on a regular basis, I'm sure a lot of our viewers right now are looking at the same thing, that obviously ball striking, tee to green, is more sustainable than putting. Colin Morikawa's ball striking has been great this week, which is, it's strange. I'd like to put my money on the putter staying decent, maybe not as hot as it's been over the first 2 rounds, but he's gaining 1.22 per round on the greens so far, and the iron's heating up. So if he gives himself more birdie chances and stays away from the mistakes like he did today, I think he's got a pretty good chance to climb up there. And then I don't mind taking a chance on some of those putters. You mentioned Denny McCarthy at 170-1. Mm-hmm. We know he's if not the best, one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. At that number, whatever your unit measure is, but you throw, I don't know, like a tenth, a fifth of a unit on Denny McCarthy going into the weekend, and the putter gets hot and he shoots a 63 out there and steps on the gas pedal on Sunday. I don't have a problem taking a shot on that number.
I'm looking at some of the live finishing positions as well. So Denny McCarthy is 10-1 to finish inside the top 5. He's 3.3-1, so plus 330 to finish inside the top 10. If that outright number does not entice you, there are other ways to get there, including with the tie. So there is a lot to consider. I was looking at the third round matchups because they are out. And I think for the most part, the ones that I've identified, I tend to skew towards the favorites for tomorrow. Like, I think that Sung Jae Im minus 160 over Adam Scott is quite interesting. I thought that Patrick Cantlay minus 165 over Matt Fitzpatrick is pretty interesting. I was trying to find a good dog or two, but I found myself just rolling with some chalk, quite honestly.
Which I hate.
I know,
I don't like doing that. Especially with single round matchups, I'm looking for even money or longer usually, and trying to find guys who are essentially underdogs, because we all know on any given day, any one of these guys, especially in a signature event, can go out there and play some good golf. So I'm looking for better numbers, but yeah, you're right. I don't see anything I love right now.
Lucas Glover's plus 115 over Shane Lowry, who's minus 140. Glover got it to like 4 under at one point today and kind of fumbled it coming in, like missed a couple of short putts. I didn't think it was the end of the world, but he has played a lot of good golf this week. I have not seen as much of Shane Lowry's week. Mm-hmm. Every time they cut to him, I feel like he's just missing a putt, but I have not seen the majority of his rounds.
I am going to lean on the guys based on the fact that I think it's going to get faster and firmer on this golf course. There's no rain coming through whatsoever, and the wind's not blowing too much. I'd like to see the wind blowing a little bit there coming off the Calabogie Sound, but I am going to lean towards those guys who can play it on the ground a little bit more. Shane Lowry's one of those guys, obviously a really good links player. I don't know that, they call it Harbour Town Golf Links. It's not really a links golf course, but I'm going to lean towards those guys who tend to play it with a lower trajectory and play it more like a links golf course. So Lowry's probably in play for me somewhere, maybe a top 10 going into the weekend. I think he's in 31st right now.
Yeah, and I love, the third round matchups because they're all based on the tee times. I love, right? So to put some of this into perspective here, the final couple of groups, Justin Thomas is minus 150 over Siwoo Kim at plus 120. Russell Henley is minus 165 over Andrew Novak at plus 135. Tommy Fleetwood minus 165. Mackenzie Hughes 135, and then Scottie Scheffler, of course, is a big favorite over Wyndham Clark minus 275. So a lot of interesting options. Some guys that play, like Carl Phillips and Ryan Gerard, got out very early on Friday. Both of them played well. They're playing together on Saturday. So there are some interesting matchups here, but again, I tend to find myself on the favorite side of things.
Yeah. I would say for those, and I know we're talking betting here, Rick, but if you're looking at DFS, you're making showdown lineups for round 3. I'm giving a bigger advantage to those guys that are going out early in the morning. First of all, I'll have to play aggressive and step on the gas pedal a little bit. Secondly, better conditions.
There's also some birdie or better props. The golf course was pretty crispy on Friday afternoon. I don't see that going away anytime soon. Do you? No.
I think it's going to continue to get firm. But again, I think morning's gettable, and the later we go, and this, not the leaderboard's going to flip, but I think we're going to see some guys that we're not talking about right now who are inside the top 10 and have a chance at least going into Sunday.
Yeah, because there is a pretty good spread of tee times. So those tee times that we were talking about, like Xander Schauffele, he is going out. Yeah, I think you said an hour and a half, 2 hours before that final group, and it was changing that fast each of the last 2 days. So I agree with you. I think there's going to be somebody or somebodies who kind of make that move and at least get themselves inside the top 10, make a little bit of noise going into the final round.
And Rick, for those guys we're looking at, I don't mind looking at the guys who either didn't play last week, missed the cut last week, or maybe just were a little further back and didn't have all the pressure on them last week. So Justin Rose, I mean, I love Justin Rose. He was classy in defeat last week. Started out really well yesterday. Shot 5 under. He was 1 over today. You can almost tell, like, the tank's like gauging towards empty right now. He's just not got that much left after going after a Masters title. I don't mind picking on those guys who are in the mix and taking guys who have a little bit more in the tank. And again, I know we look at stats, but at some point we got to look at just mindset and personalities, and who's gearing up for the weekend, who's like, just get me through the weekend, get me home for a week of rest after the last week and a half.
I tend to agree with this, and I look at Russell Henley, who missed the cut last week and played one great round on Friday, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. He's got a full tank. All right, buddy, Jason, always good to chat with you. The early wedge will roll on. It's 5 days a week, so there's plenty more early wedge coming. Big thanks to producer Josh, who's doing all the hard work behind the scenes. For Jason Sobel, I'm Rick Gehman. This has been the early wedge. Catch you next time.